Hello everyone. We have Aditi Chhaparia, who scored All India rank 97 this year, and she has been with us in both her attempts. This is her second attempt, and she's expecting the foreign service, if I'm not wrong. In the first attempt, she ended up in the reserve list and secured a job there as well. But she continued with a second attempt and went on to crack this exam. Welcome, Aditi, and congratulations. How are you feeling about
Thank
this?
you.
And just introduce yourself to that to the crowd so that they understand your background.
Yeah. I think the best feeling is of relief right now that I don't have to take the exam again. And I'm really happy that my cycle is over and I'll be joining training now. And talking about my background, I am currently 24-year-old. I have pursued my education from partly from Gorakhpur and partly from Ajmer in a boarding school. Then I pursued economics honors from Shri Ram College of Commerce, Delhi University, and I graduated in 22. And since then, I've been at home. I've prepared from home, and my optional is economics as well.
Great. The first thing, just to introduce the context for our viewers, Aditi had a great academic record. So it is easy to presume that it's a cakewalk for candidates like Aditi, and she must have got it all figured out right from the word go. Would you like to say something about that assumption, Aditi?
So my academic record did give me that confidence when I started this journey that I should be able to figure out and do it. But I think it's not that simple. There is no direct correlation between the two. One has to really understand this exam, with the correct strategy and the nuances. And for that, I think guidance from seniors, from mentors, is very important. And I started in my third year of college itself. That time, COVID was still going on, so I had online classes. So it was easier to pick up a foundation course that time. But I think I wasted a lot of time in just collecting content that time and attending classes without approaching this exam with the correct mindset. So it took me a decent enough of time to actually figure out how I should prepare for this exam.
Okay. You brought up an interesting point. So you took a foundation course. Um, so what was your experience with that? So did it actually fill the gap that now that you have the benefit of hindsight, did it actually fill the gap that is required for you to clear this exam, or how would you give it the due respect it requires, or what is it shortcoming, or what would you like to say about it in general?
So I would say that all these big institutes, they offer a 10 months foundation course, all inclusive foundation course, and I also went for that because as a beginner without any background, without any family background in this exam, it's difficult to actually pick up a coaching. So I thought that maybe this will give me the right guidance I need, and in some ways it did. It introduced me to all the important subjects and how to look at this exam in some sense. But after the course was over, I still kind of felt lost as to how I should make sense of my notes or how I should focus on mains answer writing. So I definitely don't think it was enough for me to crack the exam. Uh, and the effort cost might also not add up that much because now there are bundled courses, mentorship specific courses that help you with your self study or are subject specific. So, uh, and more time flexible. So I think maybe those are better options than going for a 1 year course in hindsight.
So after this 2 years of experience, what do you think is the most important thing to crack this exam?
I think understanding the exam is the most important part, and the psychic behind prelims as well as mains. both require different strategy, different kinds of preparation. And so, for example, in mains, all of us, even I made notes in 22 before I was taking my first attempt. And during my prelims to mains phase, most of those notes were redundant because I did not make them with the correct mindset as to how I should use them in my mains answers and what answer writing actually is. So I think figuring that whoever figures that out the earliest saves a lot of time in their preparation.
Okay. So the normal assumption of a lot of candidates is that you have to sit for an entire year, understand the subjects, then maybe give the attempt, then figure out the mistake, then maybe read more, make short notes, then
Mm.
try again, make more mistakes, and this becomes a 5 year plan
So
without we
yeah.
realizing it. What is your advice for someone who is just beginning out on what is the methodology to approach this exam?
Uh, I would say that one should start with mains, and to actually one should actually see how toppers write answers or figure out how they want to write answers in mains, and then go subject wise, make notes. That reverse engineering could actually save a lot of time, and yeah, that is one way to go about it. Something which I did not do. I figured a lot of things out after spending good 1.5 years in this journey.
Yeah.
So
Okay. So right after your uh, foundation course or right after your prelims, that's where you started your journey with VK IAS. I wanted to know after this program, what is the takeaway or what is it that you learned as a philosophy? One, and two, for people who are not, in any mentorship courses or who are probably preparing on their own, what is your advice for them with respect to the strategy that you need to adopt, or what is the skill that you have learned here that helped you plug those gaps?
sir, firstly, though, I felt really lucky that time that I came across your program because I was very lost after prelims. I had no idea about mains, and preparing for mains in 3 months is a very daunting task. So it gave me a lot of confidence just joining your course. And I think the skill that was most important that I learned in your course was answer writing and how answers need to be contextual. You were very focused on intros and conclusions. You were very focused on value addition in answers, and even your GS specific strategies were very sorted. I remember you warned us that year that GS1 will be very difficult this year, like the marking. And so that because of that, I put in even extra effort in GS1 in my first attempt, and I scored pretty decent that year. And I think just how writing answers, submitting my tests, and getting the feedback based on my own strengths and weaknesses in VKIS helped me a lot in refining my mains answers. So, someone who hadn't written even one answer before prelims, I felt pretty confident by the end of it to do well in my GS and mains. So, that was the biggest skill I learned in VKIS. And even in my second attempt, that stayed with me because it it made me understand how I should approach note making and the way answers are to be written, the keywords that are to be dropped, the bullets that should be there, both sides, pros, cons, suggestions, the typical format that we learned. So even in my second attempt, whatever content building I went for, yes.
So in the second attempt, are you saying that you have picked up the skill that was acquired in the first attempt and built content over that?
Yes, sir. So I feel like the clarity that I got or the skill that I learned with you in the first attempt really stayed with me and became my foundation for the second attempt, because then I knew what I had to go for. I knew that my concepts of answer writing are clear. I just have to focus on value addition, and even the format that I learned, like the kind of intros I should write, or the kind of pointers or keywords I should add in my answers. And so, for example, you really focused on the keywords that were used by our prime minister or any important figure. So I started collecting them more. So my value addition became much more systemized in my second attempt because of that.
Great. So the reason I'm asking this question is because the biggest problem of the entire ecosystem is that abundance of content is creating a sort of a FOMO, the
Yeah.
fear of missing out. And I believe that customization should happen when you understand yourself. So the change begins from within.
Mm.
If you understand your challenges better, then you can know how to plug them. So this is where I advocate. So what is your advice from the experience that you've actually, the transformation that you've actually gone through, to any fresher who is probably feeling very anxious about, not being able to cover everything, the current affair magazines, the newspapers, the notes, etc., etc. What's your suggestion for that?
I would say that content should firstly be limited, because a lot of us are using the same content in this cycle. But it is about the execution and the structure and the way we approach or dissect an answer that matters a lot. So that should be practiced. One should go to for genuine feedback. So a lot of test series, typical test series in the market might not give the person genuine feedback. They have a standard way of checking copies, and maybe that might not help you in understanding your own strengths and weaknesses better. So a more personalized way of getting feedback is a better option, as per my experience. And I think one should aim for that, understand where they're lacking, and then maybe go for a more directed content enrichment process rather than getting lost in the entire sea of content in this exam.
In your earlier days, did you get this perspective that you have to know your strengths and weaknesses with your exam prep, or is it because you believe that you probably don't know a lot of things and you just have to imitate some topper strategy or something? Only in the due course of preparation was it that you turned back towards yourself and then started believing, or was it like that from the beginning?
Um, Sir, in the starting, in the third year, firstly, there was lesser maturity that time, and I was not very serious with the prep. And it just felt like a set formula that you do a foundation course, you take the exam, and you follow whatever toppers did, and that is it. And I used to watch all these topper talks, see their sources, and just I would stick to them. And as the exam came nearer, it hit me that, okay, this is not enough. Like, probably I'm not doing the right thing. And that is when I started stressing more and finding more options that I can go for to better my performance. I think that acceptance also comes with time, because in the beginning, you want the easy way out. You're thinking that, okay, maybe just this 1 year coaching and then exam and you're through. But then eventually reality hits that this is bigger than that.
A lot of people think that, since they're joining some course, everything should be delivered upfront, and they just have to reproduce the content there, which will help them clear the exam. A lot of younger folks, because that's how our education system in school is like. How did you find the experience of UPSC different from your college? And what is your advice for people who outsource their thinking and refuse to think or believe in their capacity to develop a thought process?
Mm. Sir, I it's thing that in school and college, most of it was rote learning. Till even in college, like a lot of it was just learning the models and writing them in the exam. And there was no necessity to develop my own critical thinking abilities for the sake of academics. And I think that's not the case in UPSC. Both prelims and mains require your own thinking, especially in mains, because firstly, the syllabus is so vast and there are no fixed set of questions that they can ask. There are contemporary themes, current events, and for that, you need to be opinionated and you need to be able to critically analyze the question in like 10-15 seconds in that moment. So I think even I went through this process. I think I developed a lot of analytical skills and critical thinking abilities while I was preparing for mains. And it was actually difficult. That is when I felt that, I wish I worked on it while I was still in college. It would have been easier for me then.
Yeah. So if any college student is probably watching this video, what would your advice be to them?
I would say that newspaper reading can definitely help. If not complete newspaper reading, like there are channels like your own channel on Telegram, which posts articles from newspaper and dissects it. So these reading or some videos or watching some news, there is a first post vantage news that comes at 9 p.m. I watch that diligently. So I think these current affairs, contemporary affairs, keeping up with them is important to develop one's own opinion and ability to think in college. Yeah.
Also, one uh, word of caution I want it from you, because a lot of candidates might misconstrue your advice and start making notes out of newspaper. What is the danger? Did you also do this activity somewhere in your preparation? What did you realize?
I never fully made notes from newspaper. In the starting, I used to still pick some pointer or value addition data from newspaper, for example. That I did from time to time, but that was just like a value addition point that I picked. But usually, newspaper reading was for my own, enhancing my own thinking ability and for me to become more aware, more opinionated, understanding both sides of an issue. Because and I feel like that directly helped me in both prelims and mains. So there was a question on work from home in mains,
Right.
and that is not something we would separately prepare. But reading newspaper, following these current trends can actually help us in writing a better answer for such questions.
Right. So there was this time where you were following the Telegram channel, etc. And how did you exactly approach it? Did you look at it like a content distribution place, or searching
Mhm.
for content and making notes out of it, or was there any different approach?
I used to read the papers to understand the themes that you are highlighting. That was the main thing. And mostly between prelims to mains, and even for the interview phase, I followed it. So to understand an issue holistically, I remember for Forest Conservation Act and rules, I used the notes and articles that you had highlighted. So for mains, I also took points out of those articles. But the overall idea was to understand a particular issue holistically.
Right. So there is this element of personal touch, like what content suits your thought process. Was there an element, or was there an activity wherein you decided ki, okay, this part of the content should probably go into my notes, and this part of it is something that I'm not able to figure out or digest, so I'll just chuck it? How did
Yeah.
that realization come about? Like, after how much time into the prep, or after any activity? Is there any phase where you realize ki this is not how we were supposed to do it?
I think after my first prelims in 23, when I actively started writing answers more,
Mhm.
when I started writing tests also, that is when I realized that very little can actually be delivered in mains. And then I stuck to just uh, writing and retaining that content that I can actually emit out in my answer sheets. So it was just for a particular topic. So in environment or science and tech, say AI, I stuck to 2 to 3 data points per topic, 5 to 6 examples per topic, and I made sure I used them. So then, after writing tests, I think in that particular period we had between prelims to mains, I started doing this.
Okay. Speaking of science and tech, AI, etc., a lot of people, let's like AI is the new fad. Younger folks who are just in college, etc., they think ChatGPT is something that they can have and they can figure out the entire preparation. What are the
Mm.
advantages? Like, it's a beautiful technology, great technology, definitely, but also has some uh,
Mm.
downsides for people who do not have the experience. Because if these freshers can have AI tools, so will everyone else. What are your thoughts on this?
I have personally also used AI in this mains and this interview a lot, like in my second attempt, but I did not use it in first attempt so much. So I feel like a basic level of understanding of the exam and of self is important before using AI, because otherwise it's very easy to lose track. And so I knew the way I write answers, the kind of keywords I use. So it became much easier for me to use AI this time. I just focused on picking up those keywords and those extra points that I wanted. I remember I used AI to extract a lot of government schemes this time, topic wise. So you need to know what you want from AI, and then only it can be helpful.
So it came after a certain bit of experience and
Mm.
a lot of personal struggle where you're discovering your own self, figuring out how to personalize or that approach, personalizing the approach that you need to have towards the exam. And only then it
Mm.
started making sense, right?
Yeah.
Like the usage of
I,
AI.
I did not dare to use it in my first attempt because I did not have enough faith in AI that time. I thought that it will misguide me. But only with that experience and confidence, I think, like when you know that this is what I want, then.
Also, the models got better over a period of time. That's a different issue. But having
Mm.
said that, people should realize that everybody has access to the same LLM models
Mm.
and AI tools. People are indiscriminately outsourcing their ability to think. So that is a context I want to warn a lot of younger folks not to depend overtly on AI, because it can hallucinate, it can put things out of context and make it sound so convincing that you believe it is true. So this
Mm.
nuance of where to stop is what
Mm.
stops and what makes an experienced candidate clear this exam much more easily. So I just wanted to you to tell the advice to people so that they don't do this mistake. So that's the context of the question.
So I would just say that the quality of your answers matter, and everything that AI produces might not be the best fit for the answer. So the first step is to know what you want or how the answer is to be written, and without that, using AI can actually be counterproductive. So that is what.
That's very well put, actually. Now we have spoken about your preparation, the skills that you've acquired, etc., etc. Now let's go by, broadly your understanding about different papers and what you've learned in plugging those gaps. When it comes to essay, I believe that in both the attempts, because in the first attempt you were, rushing to cover your optional, etc., and also in the second attempt to plug the gaps that were there in other GS papers, we didn't get enough time on covering essay. Like, I have seen some great potential in your essays, but somehow uh, I just wish we had more time to work on the essay part. But if anyway, reached your dream destination, IFS, so that's fine. What are your learnings from essay, and what could you do better over a period of time?
So I think I have made the most amount of mistakes with essay in both my attempts. I've changed my strategy multiple times about how I should write an essay. And in the first attempt, I was trying to actually not think naturally and try to apply some formula in the essay, which did not work. And I remember that is when I approached you and you were like, Kino, you should focus on a thesis statement. And then you explained me how essay is all about like uh, expanding that thesis statement into different paragraphs and different ideas and talking about them in depth. And that really helped me a lot. I think I could have done worse than what I did in my first attempt in essay. But yeah, and then even this time I struggled a lot as to how I should write an essay. And I did not write a lot of essays within time as well. I just wrote like few single essays here and there. So maybe more writing could have helped me in this essay strategy better. And it's also something that's built over a longer period of time. And didn't think I was a natural writer even before my UPSC journey started. So those 2 to 3 months where you have so many different papers to cover, it's difficult to actually improve one's writing skills overnight. So um, I think college is a better place to start working on one's essays.
Um, you mentioned about the time period, right? You just have like 2 to 3 months. This time it's even bad. I feel sorry for the aspirants for writing this exam. It's just 87 days. Given this fact, how important is it to understand the psyche of your own self? Like, what is the situation of your mind, and what advice to take seriously, and what advice to put it aside, so that you keep your mental sanity in this high pressure exam.
So I think that is the most important part of these 3 months, because it's just too intense. Like in my first attempt, I gained 10 kgs in just 3 months because of all the stress eating and everything. So the psychic is really not, it's different for every aspirant, definitely. But for me, it gets really stressful. So I think even it's important for mentors and teachers also to understand that psychic, because one bad comment can actually spoil a couple of days. And this happened with me this time. I approached a teacher to review my essay 2 weeks before the mains, and I did not get a good review, and that really like wasted 3 days, because that confidence can be shaken. So I think one should make the both sides discretion should be maintained from the teacher side and from the student side. It's our responsibility as well to be more stable and not to approach everyone for advice, or to know when to take the advice seriously and to not.
Yeah. See, on this point, I make it a point because I don't give advices in the last minute. I just remain calm because if I feel that maybe the feedback that I'm giving is not something that's going to help them in that short window of period, I refrain from giving that comment. So I'll just give them a bare minimum feedback. But if I feel that it's out of my hands or your hands, it will not really add any value. In fact, it can exactly be the opposite. Like if you're, let's say, for example, marks 100 worth, and if I give you a negative feedback, you're always going to approach it with that element of doubt, and it might drag you down to 90. So that's one reason why I refrain from giving feedback, extremely critical feedback, in the last minute. All the feedback that I give should be implementable within a time period. That's what my focus is all about. I think you mentioned an important point there. To understand the psyche of the student requires a lot of personalization and personal touch with the mentor, etc. And it's difficult for students to, and refrain from maintaining that restraint and use that discretion to, not seek validation everywhere, because all the mentors are equally, experienced and knowledgeable, and they try to give their 2 cents in every aspect. They want to give the best for the students. but if it comes at a wrong time, I've learned that in one of my earlier days where I personally faced that issue, the intent is right, but
Mm.
I took that feedback at a very late stage, which kind of impacted my psyche. So I make sure
Mm.
that it is not passed on to my mentees after I
Mm.
started VK IAS. So this is also important. Like a lot of people tend to focus less on their mental health. The emotional resilience that this exam demands is very high. So what are your thoughts on that? What is the importance of emotional resilience in this?
Sir, the prelims to mains phase requires a lot of emotional resilience because it is so intense, and there's constant fear, constant doubt, constant comparison with the other aspirants who are writing mains. All the copies are available online now, so just comparing your copy with someone who scored higher than you in a test, that itself is alone to make you doubt if you're good enough. So, self belief and having emotional stability becomes very important in this period.
So thank you for sharing all your thoughts on this examination, and I wish you all the best for your upcoming journey in the IFS, and I hope you make the nation proud. And thank you for trusting me in this process, and I feel very happy that I was able to plug those gaps and help you out in this entire process. Thank you for being a part of this talk, and wish you all the best.
I want to thank you as well for being so important in both my means and interview journey, and not just giving me material support in prep, but also a lot of mental support in boosting my confidence in both means and interview. And I think that also plays an equally important role in this journey. So thank you, sir, for that.
Thank you. I mean, thank you. Okay. All the best. Thank you for the talk.
Thank you, sir. I hope it was fine, and I hope your startup boosts and you produce many more toppers in future.
Thank you. More than the startup, I think the value that we add, etc. Like
Yeah,
also, obviously, when I add value, the
that,
organization will
that's
grow itself.
mm,
Thank you for clarifying a lot of myths, giving clarity
mm,
on what is the requirement. This is again just a heads up to all the people who might be watching this show. This talk is not meant to promote VKIS or the mentorship program alone. It is just to educate and probably make some decisions, help you make some decisions on what are the most important things while preparing for this exam, debunk some myths which are very difficult to communicate otherwise. Since it's coming from a person who has gone through this journey, it's not just this place. VKS is not the only place where you'll get all these values or all this mentorship programs, etc. Wherever you're going, understand that this exam is about problem solvers. It's about uh, nation building, and as a part of this, VKS tries to be a small part in your journey by adding value in probably making this nation
mm,
a very formidable one, trying to address the problem. So there's a this point, like I keep on saying the same thing again and again. कोई भी देश perfect नहीं होता है, उसे perfect बनाना पड़ता है. So let's all take that responsibility in our
mm.
own ways, and that's probably how we can show our patriotism. Thank you. Jai Hind.